Liberate IT is an Oracle NetSuite solution provider that has been servicing Australian and New Zealand companies since 2011.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Liniger. I am the Relationship Manager for Liberate IT. Please do reach out to me if you've got any questions around how to get more out of your NetSuite solution, any licensing concerns, how that mysterious NetSuite billing process works. More than happy to talk you through that and connect you through with the right resources within Liberate to help you out. Today, we are going to do a few quick updates around the comings at Liberate IT, some NetSuite updates, what's going on in the life of NetSuite. We'll be doing the session today with Caitlin from Netstock, and then we'll be wrapping up. So today will be about just under 1 hour. Looking forward to it. During this session, we are recording today. We will be posting that on our website as we usually do and our YouTube channel, so do go and check those things out. Today, you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions of Caitlin and myself, and please do use the Q&A function that's there. I'll be monitoring that. Don't use the chat. I probably won't be monitoring that. We'll keep all your questions to the end, but don't be afraid just to ask them as we go. And then we'll get all those answered towards the end there. So a few updates on what's happening at Liberate IT. So Joshua Gordon is our new support desk team leader. Michelle has unfortunately decided to leave, and Josh has started this week, and he has hit the ground running. So please, if you've got any support requests, do send those through to him. Josh has got many years of experience working with NetSuite in a admin support role, and he's a great addition to the team. I really enjoy working with Josh. In terms of Liberate IT, we are the first NetSuite partner in our region and one of the first 10 in the world to get the competency badge, which you'll see in the top right or top left corner. That's replacing that star system that NetSuite have used for many years. And so just to let you know a little bit about that competency program is a way for us to demonstrate that we've got not just the depth of knowledge on particular aspects of NetSuite, but a broad knowledge of NetSuite, so both breadth and depth. And we're really proud to be one of the first in the world to get that. In terms of NetSuite, Suite World is returning in person this year. It's in Las Vegas, September 27 to 30. So if you are thinking of attending that, please let me know. I want to make sure that we look after you while you're there. There are, as well as our fortnightly webinars, NetSuite do workshops online for those with a company-wide LCS pass. Some of those courses that are happening at the moment is, say, advanced accounts receivable today. A whole bunch of reporting this week, and next week is advanced revenue management as well. So if you've got that company pass, do log in and get onto those webinars. There's some great training sessions there. Great opportunity for you to ask the NetSuite team some questions also. Cash 360, as I mentioned, last fortnight is out, as well as Project 360. Our team is still working through those releases. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out to us. There's a couple of manuals and suite answers available on how they all work. So do contact the support desk for help on those. Okay, that's my updates right now. I am just going to present to you Caitlin Tunbridge. Caitlin, hello, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you, Andrew?
Fantastic. Great to be with you. Hey, we had the team at Netstock here last year. We got to meet Andy. It was a great session. You're back with an update of the user interface, I think. Is that right?
Yes, we're excited to show you our new user interface that was launched on May the 16th of this year.
Wow, so fresh out of the box.
Yeah, exactly right.
Fantastic. And, we live in the world of software as a service. So just checking with you that all your existing customers get access to that new user interface, as well as anyone potentially wanting to purchase Netstock. Is that right?
Exactly right. Yep. We include automatic upgrades in all of our subscription plans, so all of our customers have access to that new user interface.
Fantastic. Well, from here, Caitlin, I will be quiet and I'll hand over to you and you can get cracking.
Great. Thank you very much, Andrew. So just to give you a bit of background about Netstock as a company, we're a global company with operations in the UK, the US, South Africa, Germany, and Australia. We help support over 18,000 users globally, and that they exist in just over 2,000 companies. And of those 2,000 companies, we help them manage just over $17 billion worth of inventory. So with our team here at Netstock, we have over 400 years of combined inventory management experience that's gone into the tool that you'll see today. So just quickly to position Netstock, what we are and what we're not. What we're not is a transactional tool. We don't manage the physical product. We don't do picking, stock taking, anything of that manner. What we are is purely the planning tool. So we give you the ability to model different inventory policies and show you the financial impacts of targeting higher or lower fill rates. We'll generate ideal orders telling you what to order and when. We'll track your performance against your ideal models and highlight any items that are preventing you from achieving it. And we'll also predict what happens to your inventory into the future if you implement specific policies, and based on all these various different inputs. So our customers, when using our tool, can receive the following benefits. The first one will be increased visibility. You'll get visibility over your inventory, products that are on the critical path, ones that are moving and contributing within your business, and those that are not bringing much value at all. So you'll have all the relevant information that you need to be able to make informed decisions. You can also expect an improvement in fill rate because every recommended order you place will help drive you towards the target fill rate goals that you've set, and that will help lead to increased sales. It's also been designed to compute the optimum level of stock that you'll need to hold in order to support your chosen fill rate. And what this means is we can actually help you reduce overall inventory at the same time we help you improve your fill rate. The software has been designed to improve replenishment efficiency by creating automated visual replenishment plans by supplier that are very easy to interact with and amend. And we often get feedback from our customers that they have significantly reduced the time taken to place orders and create their replenishment plans. And by using a tournament-based algorithm system, we're able to help you improve the forecasting accuracy. And I will explain this in more detail once we jump into the software. So if we just take a moment to think about, well, why are we holding inventory? Well, if our vendors, and when I say vendors, I could be speaking about external vendors, our own assembly lines or manufacturing facilities, or even our own distribution centers that are servicing other stores or branches. So if these vendors always delivered on time and in full, and we knew exactly how much we were going to sell, well, planning would be easy. We just simply match supply with demand, and there'd be no reason for us to hold stock. The only thing forcing us to do so would be minimum order quantities, minimum production runs, filling containers, or any other constraints imposed on us by that vendor. So we hold stock to cater for the risk that our vendor may deliver late or under-deliver, and from the other side that we may sell more than we'd forecast, as both of these scenarios have a risk to our stock availability, leading to potential stockouts and lost sales. So what Netstock does for us is it measures these risks by item, by location, and it uses this as the key driver to determine the optimum level of stock that you need to hold in order to support your chosen fill rates. And just to give you an example, if you think of two different products, the first one has a very patchy demand. It's not easy for us to forecast. We purchase it from a vendor who constantly delivers late and under-delivers. Well, you're going to need to hold significantly more stock to support yourself, the exact same fill rate target as one which has a smooth demand pattern, easy to forecast, and purchase from a reliable vendor. So Netstock provides your company with a platform for you to enter your own business goals. What fill rate targets would you like to achieve, and what products will you be stocking? It will then work out for you the amount of money required and the stock turns to support this. And you can model and play with these inputs and compare the various different model outputs to see the financial investment level that you're happy to work towards as your model. And from the other side, it's always designed to cover the risk of your business. And risk, as we saw, has those two main drivers. How reliably can we forecast? And how good are our vendors at delivering on time and in full? Well, risk then gets multiplied back by some different factors, such as the length of the lead time. Longer lead times means we have more risk because we can't respond to changes as quickly. How often we review to place orders? Well, if we're reviewing monthly, we'll have much more risk than if we can review to place orders weekly or even daily. And any constraints that are imposed on us by our vendor, such as minimum order quantities, if we have to order in bundles, filling containers, or minimum production runs, this will all impact the risk. And once NetStock considers your vendor-specific constraints, it will then automatically work out for you the right amount of money required to meet your business goals, and is also optimized to cover that risk of your business. It then ensures that every order you place will fall in line with this agreed plan. And if at any point you decide to up your fill rate targets or change the products that you're stocking, this will immediately become reflected in all of your replenishment plans. So NetStock is a pure cloud product, and we have a list of plug-and-play integrations with some leading ERPs such as NetSuite. So within a couple of hours, we load our connector with NetSuite and the data starts flowing. So we have all the sales, the purchase orders, stock on hand, supply information, and it continues to refresh nightly, but you can also refresh on demand straight from the application itself. And being cloud-based, you can then access NetStock via any browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, on any device you like, tablet, desktop, laptop, smartphone. It will then produce some recommended outputs, will tell you what to purchase from your external vendors, what to manufacture or assemble, and what to transfer your branches or your stores to keep their stock at the right levels. You can then review these orders in the software, make any amendments that you like, press a button, and on demand, those orders will be sent back into NetSuite. They'll sit in NetSuite as a pending order with all the information populated for you to be able to release them to your vendor how you normally would for your workflow or authorization process. So without a further ado, I'll get straight into the software. And now as soon as you log into NetStock, if you have multiple locations, you'll be able to see a dashboard for each of your different locations. And we can also create consolidated views, whether they be global, national, regional, however you'd like to see your data grouped. We can help create those views and those dashboards for you. You can then mark a location to be your default location. So each time you log in, you'll see your default location on the dashboard. You're also able to pin some other important locations so that when you're using your navigation pane to move throughout the software, you can quickly and easily navigate between your default location and any pinned locations that may be important to you in your planning process. So we'll come back to the dashboards towards the end, but first we're just going to look at how the risks apply to the products at that item level. So here on the left-hand side, in your navigation pane, up the top, it always tells us the last time the data was imported out of NetSuite. So if we were running live, that would say the 22nd of June, would tell us the time, as well as how many hours ago that data was imported out of NetSuite. Now, this is an old demo instance, and hence the last refresh was done on the 8th of August, and that's why the date is showing in red there, just to indicate to me that it's been over 24 hours since the last refresh, and I may need to manually schedule one directly from the application itself. That will just come into play when we take a look at the forecasting table down the very bottom of the screen. So out of NetSuite, we'll get all of the base information around your items. We'll know the average cost, selling price, metrics like volume and weight if you have them, your stock on hand, preferred vendor, and any groupings that you use to classify or group your products, such as custom fields, attributes, tags, any of those sort of groupings or categories, we'll pull them through so that you can use them to group and slice and dice your data later on. We'll also extract lead time if you have it in NetSuite, or we can set it by supplier in NetStock, or we simply flick a switch and ask NetStock to start calculating it for us based upon historical purchase orders. We'll also extract any constraints that you may have across the items. So this one, we happen to have an MOQ of 300, so we need to order at least 300 at a time, and we also have to order in bundles of 50. We'll also pull through all of the sales history that you have for the products at each location, and using all this information that NetStock will extract out of NetSuite, It produces a lot of very powerful information for us to view just on this one page alone. And first, we're just going to look up here in this demand pane. So according to the sales history of this product at this location, Netstock has chosen the demand type no trend with seasonality. And if we'd like to see that forecasting in more detail, then we can scroll down to take a look at this forecasting tab. So here we've got about 2 years worth of sales history shown in this table above, as well as on this blue line graph below. Netstock will then run a best pick tournament method with a variety of different algorithms. It finds the algorithm that best suits this sales history. In our case, that was no trend with seasonality, and use that algorithm to create for us this forecast into the future, and does that for every single product at each location. It then evaluates on a daily basis, well, how are we tracking against that forecast? If it's tracking well, we don't need to worry about it. We'll just come up for normal reordering. But if it's not tracking well, then it will appear on our forecast exception reports, which we need to periodically review in order to make sure we're not either ordering to a higher or lower forecast than what we've actually been selling at. So this is an example where we are actually selling a little bit more than our forecast. We've sold 29% of our forecast, but we're only 26% through the current period because today is the 8th of August. So if we continue to sell at the rate we are, we'll definitely exceed our forecast of 511. So we can then amend forecast at an item by warehouse level or location level, all the way up to a more group company level or product range level, which I'll show you in a moment. So maybe I know from market intelligence that I'm expecting an increase in December. I can select December and input my forecast manually. Maybe I'm happy with the computer profile and I'd like to make a more macro adjustment. Then I can also select multiple time periods and just simply add or subtract to the forecasts or drag them up or down. So since we were selling slightly more than we'd forecast, I'm just going to drag the forecast up for the next 3 months and click on Apply New Forecast, as we seem to be experiencing an increase in demand. So now once I scroll down to take a look at the forecasting, you can see that the changes that I've made have little frozen symbols next to them. And what this means is next time the forecasting cycle runs, well, it won't override the changes that you've made because you have gone through the trouble of manually adjusting those. And now we can see, well, if we continue to sell at the rate we are, we should be selling pretty much 583 by the end of August if we continue at the rate we are. And we always do recommend to capture a comment to say why we've made those manual adjustments, so every other user is aware of why those changes have been made. So in the background, the system is constantly recording those different forecast shots across the period and then shows us our forecast history, our sales history, and then the variance between those two numbers. And the red squares are where we've been under forecasting, potential for stocking out, and the gray purple squares are where we've been over forecasting, potential for creating excess stock. So just looking at June as an example, we've forecasted 923, we sold 501, so that means we over forecasted by over 84%. So Netstock then takes a look at this history and says, well, lately you've actually been over forecasting. And as we recall, safety stock is purely there to cater for late and under deliveries, and when we sell more than we'd forecast. So if we forecast more than we've sold, well, we've actually already inadvertently built some safety stock into our forecast. And therefore, when I'm computing the number of safety stock days that I need to hold, I can actually start to shrink away that number to the tune of about 2 days. But we had under forecasted previously, and we could do it again. So that's why this forecast risk percent then comes into our forecast risk profile. So that was our forecast risk profile. Well, we do the exact same thing, but on the supplier side as well. So here, clicking on that supplier performance tab, I can see just how well this vendor has been delivering to this warehouse. You can see a number of late deliveries, some early deliveries. Most of them have been in full, but we did have one case where they short supplied us. So even though we think we should get the product in 45 days, well, on average, based upon all our purchase orders, it's actually more like 56 days. But even if we use 56 days as our planning lead time, that's still not going to cut it. Because if I click on this table, I can actually see all my individual purchase orders, who I placed the order from, the purchase order number, when I placed that order, when it was receipted, how many days that took, how many I ordered, and how many I received. So you can see here, even if we use 56 days as our lead time, that still wouldn't cut it. They've delivered in 69, 67. And of course, there was that case where we ordered 285, but they only sent us 55. So I have a degree of risk around this vendor at this particular warehouse. So according to these two different risk profiles, these come into our safety stock calculation. There's nothing that we need to do with these risk profiles. Netstock does all the work for us. So at the top of this safety stock pane, we have a target fill rate of 98%. So we're saying 98% of the time when the customer would like to purchase the products, we have the stock available for them off the shelf. We've also chosen to order 30 days worth of stock at a time. And I'll go through in more detail how we set this target fill rate and replenishment cycle for all the items when we look at modeling the policies. As I said, lead time can come by item if we have it in NetSuite. Otherwise, we can set it by supplier in Netstock, or we calculate it for you using your historical purchase orders. So as I just showed you, those two different risk profiles are the next part that comes into this safety stock calculation. And according to those two different risk profiles, Netstock is telling me that I need to hold an additional 21 days worth of safety stock in order to achieve this 98% target fill rate. And just to give you another product to compare that one to, which targets the exact same fill rate of 98%, but you can see for this product, we need to hold 3 times that previous item's worth of safety stock, 77 days. And it becomes quite obvious why that's the case when we take a look at those two different risk profiles. Well, here I can see, just looking at that grey band first of all, this large grey band indicates to us that our forecast shots have been really varied over time, so not an easy product to forecast. And if we click on the table, we'll see that, well, last month we made some manual adjustments, but we still missed out pretty badly. By over 45%, we'd under forecasted by. So as a result, I have a really high degree of forecast risk around this item. And what about the supplier side? Well, we think we may get the product in 90 days, but we can actually see that we've been receiving it in 120, 128, or 151, so progressively getting worse. Not only do we need to add at least an extra 42 days into our safety stock to cater for this late vendor, but I also have some risk that my vendor may deliver even later than that. So there you can see, according to those two different risk profiles, why we need drastically different levels of safety stock to achieve the exact same target fill rate. And essentially, this is why we're able to help you improve fill rate at the same time we help you reduce inventory. Because if you need 4 weeks worth of safety stock to achieve a 99.99% target fill rate, but you're holding 8 weeks, well, you're not getting any additional benefit. You're just holding up extra working capital. But if you're needing 8 weeks and you're only holding 4 weeks, then you're constantly stocking out. So by holding the appropriate safety stock based upon these risk profiles, we're able to help you get the most optimum balance of inventory. So that was the item level, but we can also interact with forecasts at that group level. And we can also view any exceptions in terms of products that are either selling more than we'd forecast or forecast more than we've sold. So it is important for us to adjust the forecast for, as I said, things like market intelligence, promotions, projects, to get the best reflection of our future demand. So here on the forecasting page, what we're looking at now is a summary of all of my products' sales history, the forecast history, as well as the future forecasts for all of my items at this ABC warehouse. And you can view those forecasts in cost price, selling price, margin, or units. But you can also drill down just to find a specific group of items that you're looking to find. So maybe you're just looking for those potentially stock out items, then you could filter by status. Or maybe you're just concerned about products which you've already manually adjusted the forecast on, then you could filter by frozen forecasts. Or let's say we're running a promotion across a particular group of items, let's say our RS items, these happen to be. So we'll apply the filter to just look at that specific product group. And now what we're looking at is just our RS items sales history, the forecast history, as well as the future forecast for just this RS item product group. We can then adjust those forecasts at a total level and have those adjustments blow down to each individual SKU. So maybe we're running that promotion across February and we're expecting about a 50% uplift. Then I can input 50% into February, and I can also select multiple periods and drag the forecasts up or down. So once we are happy with the changes that we're making, we'll click on Model to then see what we've either added or subtracted to this group of forecasts. You can see this in the table here, as well as represented on this line graph above there. And if you'd like to see even more detail and you'd like to see each individual SKU which you've amended within this RS group, then we can click on Adjust Items. It then brings up each individual product. It tells you a little bit about the item, including the product description. This one happens to be a low mover, a low contributor, which I'll go through these classifications in just a moment. We can see the SKU code, the descriptions, any custom fields, groupings, categories. This one's been classified as having excess stock. It's also an intermittent seller. So you can see here the sales history and the future forecast, and you can go through, step your way through each individual SKU and continue amending the forecasts. You'll always see a summary down the bottom of the page of how you've adjusted this group of forecasts, in whichever units you wish to view that in. And if you do prefer to work in Excel, you can always download all of your forecasts into a CSV export, make further changes there, and then upload it back into Netstock. So lots of ways that you can manually override the forecasts for all of those promotions, market intelligence, projects, and the like. But Netstock will do some of the work for you. And also, you can review things in terms of the forecasting exceptions on that forecasting page. So here's a list of items which are currently selling much more than we'd forecast. If we continue to purchase to that low forecast, we may risk stocking out. So we would need to go and review these items and potentially raise up the forecasts. And this is the exact reverse scenario where we're forecast much more than we've sold. And if we continue to purchase to that high forecast, we may be creating excess stock for ourselves. So I'll just click on this item here, and then I'll do some investigation. Well, do I think this product will catch up? Or do I need to make an amendment to a more realistic picture? Here I can see my current month-to-date sales is only 15% of that forecast, even though we're 26% through the current period. So we're pretty far behind in the current month, but looking at this sales history and the forecast, it seems pretty reasonable. So why isn't my product selling? Well, I can actually see here that this product happens to be a super session. This 502 is replacing this 503 in a direct ratio of 1:1. But you can have as many products going into one in whatever ratios you like. And you can also just link products to be like for like in the instance that you'll still continue to sell the old one. So once we go back to that forecasting table, you can see once I hide the sales history of the superseded items, well, this new 502 actually only started to sell this month and a little bit of last month in July. If we tried to forecast using just that sales history alone, well, we would have essentially had a flat line. So by linking it to the previous item, Netstock has picked up on the linear trend and the seasonality and used that as a baseline for our new products forecast. And as that new item begins to sell, it will then influence its own forecast more and more. So there are lots of different ways that we can interact with the forecast, whether we're manually adjusting them or we're linking them to other items to see their forecasts. So just coming back to this demonstration item, we also have visibility on what you've already placed on order. So this item happens to have 2 purchase orders that are on the way. You can see when you place the order, how many you've ordered, what the costs were, how many are due still expected to arrive, and when you can expect those to arrive. So we essentially have all the information that we need now to then start the ordering for this product. We know our safety stock, we have our replenishment cycle, which is 30 days worth of stock at a time. We know our lead time, and we also have our future forecast as well as our current stock position. So if I click on the projection for this product, you can see a forward range view of what's going to happen to my level of stock at this warehouse. This being my closing stock today, each day it will start to reduce by the future forecast, and we've got 2 purchase orders that are on the way, which will increase my stock levels. The green dotted line here represents the length of the lead time. So if I were to place an order today, that would be the first time I can expect my order to arrive or any point thereafter. So Netstock then creates for us this ideal inventory profile and says, well, this is the optimum amount of stock that you need to hold in order to support your chosen fill rate, protect yourself against those risk profiles, and adhering to any constraints imposed on you by your vendor. It creates for us this minimum stock level, which is also known as our safety stock, which is dynamic and computed each day into the future automatically by Netstock. Same goes for the maximum level. It then creates for us this recommended replenishment plan to keep us inside the ideal zone. And as you can see, we're ordering about a month's worth of stock each month into the future, as that was the policy that we'd set for ourselves. So you can clearly see that Netstock is recommending us this replenishment plan. And if you'd like to see that broken down into a table, you can see all your projected orders, when you're expected to be placing your orders. You can notice here that each order has been rounded up to the nearest 50 because that was our constraint, that we had to order in bundles of 50. And we've pretty clearly exceeded that MOQ of 300 each time we're ordering. You can see the order value as well as when we can expect each of those orders to arrive. So all this information gets broken down into daily planning buckets for you to view. You'll see the forecast will get broken down, and you can see this minimum and maximum level are dynamic, and they start increasing as we come into a busy season. So it's important that our min-max levels are dynamic and they're responding to future demand as well as those risk profiles for us to be able to stay ahead of the curve and prevent ourselves from stocking out in the future. So Netstock will automatically be doing this for us, adjusting these min-max levels as we go, and we'll also show you what will happen to your inventory into the future based upon all these different inputs. You can see that purchase order arriving on the 1st of September, which will increase my stock position, and it simulates the rest throughout. So it creates one of these ideal inventory profiles for every single one of your products at each location. It then evaluates the current state or the health of the product against its profile. And in this instance, you can see, well, once we reach that lead time, we're actually above that maximum level there. So as a result, Netstock has deemed this product to have surplus orders because when this one arrives and we reach the lead time, we're actually still 116 units above that maximum level there. Now, we wouldn't necessarily look at delay at cancelling up that order because not long thereafter, we're going to fall back with inside this ideal zone, and we're going to have to start ordering according to this plan anyway. But if we took a look at that other product that we just compared our safety stock to, and we take a look at its projection, you can see, well, in fact, we should be operating up here, but instead we're all the way down there. And that's why we're going to stock out. We have enough on order, but it is arriving too late. And if we click on the table there, we can see the exact day I'm predicted to run into negative. And in this environment, we think that when we run out of stock, 60% of the time we'll take a back order, and 40% of the time we may lose the sale. So we're constantly forecasting to take 60% of that forecast as back orders over that out of stock period so that we know exactly what our stock position will look like once that next purchase order arrives. So next thing we'll do is move on to the classification of the products. So we do this in two different stages, and this will affect how we classify, how we apply the policies, and also how we order the products. So the first stage of the classification of the items goes into non-stocked and obsolete. Non-stock being items which we only order against customer orders, or these could be made to order products. And obsolete are items which we're never ordering or making again, ones that we're phasing out of. They've either discontinued, they've been superseded, or whatever the case, we never want to purchase them. Everything else will then goes into the stock category and then gets classified using two different Paretos. The first is an ABC Pareto based on either historical sales or future forecast, and then weighted by either cost price, selling price, or margin, and then you'll input some percentages. So as it stands, if the item contributes to the top 80% of my turnover at cost price, it gets an A ranking, the next 16% a B, and then the bottom 4% a C. We then do the exact same thing, but irregardless of cost, and that gives us the velocity or the movement of the products. So by classifying the items in this manner, we end up with a matrix that will look like this. Across the top here, we have our A items accounting for 80% of the turnover. And down the right-hand side, we have our high movers accounting for 80% of the product movement. So clearly this being my most important intersection here, my high movers and my high contributors, but unfortunately you can notice that majority of my items are sitting down there in that dead zone, not moving and not contributing. But essentially by classifying the items in this manner, each of these little grids, well, they have their own unique characteristics. For example, these 93 items, these C high products, well, they're in the top 80% of product movement, but they're in the bottom 4% of turnover. So these will be our fast moving, inexpensive items. They're moving quickly, customers are buying them, but they're not bringing us much in terms of demand. So when it comes to ordering and setting the policy for these products, why not choose to target the highest possible fill rate? And we could also choose to order larger days worth of stock at a time. By doing so, I essentially get a triple win. I'm reducing the number of orders that I place, I'm not inflating my inventory by much, and I'm also never running out of stock, so I'm keeping my customers happy. What about these A high products? Well, sure, I probably want the highest possible fill rate for them. They're my most important items. Well, currently I'm only achieving 85. So maybe I could start with 98%, see how that looks, but I can also dial in 99.99% and compare the various two outcomes, which I'll show you in just a moment. So, and if it made sense to me, maybe I could order a week or 2 weeks worth of those products. And what about these A low items? Well, these 76 items are in the top 80% of turnover, but in the bottom 4% of product movement. So these are our slow moving, expensive items. Well, potentially these could be products that customers can't find elsewhere. They may be willing to wait for them, and potentially we could target a slightly lower fill rate for those. So during the implementation, we help you set these policies to best reflect your environment as well as the goals that you're trying to achieve. And we'll set these policies by each location. So here you can see I've set some base policies for each of these different grid matrices. And you can see that I'm currently holding $7.6 million worth of stock, but according to that policy, well, Netstock's telling me that I only need to be holding 5 million. Currently, I'm achieving almost an 80% fill rate, almost an 87% fill rate, but I could be achieving 97. But let's say, you know what, maybe I'm not happy with 98% on those A high items. Well, they are my most important products. So let's dial in 99.99% and apply that new policy. It will now start to recalculate all the safety stock levels and the model stock for all those A high items. Okay, so looks like we're just running into a bit of an issue here. So we'll just continue on with some policy override settings. So here in the policy overrides, you're also able to override anything that goes into that grid there. So you can apply things like capping safety stock days to have either a minimum or maximum level. We can also do things like setting special target fill rates for a particular group of items. And you can also update replenishment cycles for a particular group. So some people like to order maybe half a year's worth of packaging because it doesn't take up much space and they may get a good price discount on that. So they can set up that special replenishment cycle to order larger days worth of cover for that packaging. And that will just come up when we look at the ordering plan. You can also do things like changing stocking indicators to change something to be stocked, non-stocked, or obsolete, as well as doing things like updating the lead time for a particular group of items. So you set the policy, you apply any overrides, and then you take a look at those model outcomes and you compare the various different model outcomes to see what inventory investment you're happy to work towards. And the dashboards will show you how you're achieving that or how you're progressing towards those goals that you've just set yourself. So we just set ourselves that policy, and you can see here that we now have a model of $5.5 million worth of stock. So we'd like to see our inventory levels trending downwards towards that model. And when we implement with you, we take a snapshot. Once you're happy with that implementation, we take a snapshot. This then gets recorded as the benchmark. So we'd like to see from our benchmark us trending down towards the model, and any items which are currently preventing us from achieving that model will be highlighted to us. So these are all the products which have the highest value of stock in descending order. You can always click on here for the full report, but what you're looking at on your dashboard is always your top 5 worst offenders in descending order. So that you know, if you're starting at the top of the list, you're always making the biggest impact on your business first. Top row of this dashboard is all about your investment level to the customer. So as I said, this is all about your investment levels, and this is all about your excess stock. So these products have been classified as having excess stock. taking into account supply chain factors such as the lead time. So you can be confident that if you dispose of this excess stock highlighted to you on the dashboard, you're not going to risk stocking out. So you'd like to see excess stock trending downwards and surplus orders as well heading downwards. So these are a list of products which have orders on the way that when they will arrive, will be creating or inflating your excess further. So you can actually take action before any issue has occurred by preventing yourself from creating excess by reviewing these surplus orders, pushing them out, delaying them, canceling them, so that you're not creating a bigger issue for yourself. This middle row to the dashboard here is all about your service level to the customer. So as you'd like to see your fill rate improving in towards the target there, any products which are currently negatively impacting your overall company fill rate will be shown to you in descending order. You'll also see any stocked out products, and they're shown in descending order of lost sales value. So the products which are costing you the most amount of money as a result of being out of stock will be shown to you at the top of your dashboard. Again, you'd like to see your stocked out items and your potential stock out items heading downwards in that direction. As I've said, you can click on here for the full report. So let's just click on the full report of potential stock out items, and you can see there's a lot of information in these reports. You can see the exact day you're predicted to stock out and how many units you'll be stocked out of. So you can see here that, well, I actually see that there's already an order on the way for this product. So I could either try and expedite this order and bring it in by the 18th of August to be able to prevent myself from stocking out. You can also filter this list as well. So maybe you're concerned about potential stockouts and you'd only like to see all the products which currently don't have any orders on the way. Then you could filter by on order, with 0 being your maximum. And now you can see any products which currently are going to potentially stock out that don't have anything on the way. So you could pretty urgently follow up with all those products and place orders for them with your vendors. You also have another section to your dashboard as well, which will highlight to you your stock turns. So hopefully we see these improving, and any products which are preventing us from improving those stock turns are shown to us on the dashboard. You'll also see any new products, and these are items which don't yet have any sales history, but either have stock on hand or have orders on the way. So we either need to link their items to previous products to see their forecast or to manually input those forecasts ourselves. We also get a status breakdown of where all of our products are sit within each of the different categories. So if our items are tracking well, then we don't need to worry about them. They won't come up on the dashboard. We just place normal orders for them. Essentially, this dashboard is showing us our exceptions, things that we need to action that are shown to us in relevance, importance to our business, so that we know if we're always starting at the top of this list here, we're always making the biggest impact to our business first. So I'm finished with my section. So if we'd like to wrap up with some Q&A.
Sure thing, Caitlin. Wow, that's you just went through so much in such a short amount of time. So thank you so much for that. That's incredible. I think I'm a visual learner, so being able to not just have rows and rows of raw data there, but actually, some charts and some ranges to work within. I know concerns that customers of mine in the past have had with planning tools in general is I don't want the system just to do it all for me. I want to be able to still apply some common sense to what I'm doing, right? And I think you showed that today in terms of, well, here's the ranges. This is what the system's suggesting you do. But at the end of the day, you've still got complete control over the ordering process and being able to override that as well. I thought that was really cool. I warned you, I'm going to have comments rather than questions, Caitlin. I do have a question through from Michael, but I really encourage you, if you're thinking about anything that you saw Caitlin present just now, do put it in the Q&A. Happy to answer those. So question from Michael. It looks like he is in the IT business and his customers order laptops and notebooks from him. They have a 3-year refresh cycle for some of their customers in order to get those notebooks to them. So it's a little bit more of a supply, I guess, issue than demand. But so his question is are you able to set up a policy per customer for their refresh cycle, so you can make sure that you've got enough laptops on hand to be able to give them every 3 years?
So you can do some forecasting by customer. It's a layer that goes on top of Netstock. So we would scope that out with you, and we would create some customer channels, some customer groups, so that you can then adjust policies and adjust forecast at that group level instead of at the individual item by location level.
Got you. Great. I saw that early on you showed not only can you forecast per individual item, but you can then group items together, and then overall as a business, as a company, you can actually see all that as well. That's really cool. No more questions that have come through, Caitlin. That was it. So we're pretty close to time, so I might take over. Thank you so much for going through all that. That was a whirlwind. I think I would have to rewatch that a few more times to understand the breadth and depth of the solution, because there's so much there. My take on it was, it looks like people that actually do this planning for a living have actually designed it, rather than techies behind the scenes. There was a lot of real world use cases there that would help out.